So Dionne, we talked about how you just came off the treadmill. You look fantastic. Nobody can see you, but let me assure everyone she looks fantastic. If I look that good after I got off a treadmill, I might do it more often.
Well, I'm one of those weirdos that puts makeup on to go to the gym. So I
Love
never, I keep that walking pace just under the whole, starting to perspire a little bit. So
it. That's good.
it's
That's
pretty
really
funny.
Yes, it is. Well, in your bio, you had mentioned, and I'm basically reading the sentence, you talk about being an artist, a business owner, creative business coach. We're going to get into all of this today, but start with the artist because were you an artist as a kid and were you an entrepreneur? Because you are an amazing entrepreneur.
Thank you so very much. It's such a beautiful question because was I actively pursuing artistry? No. Do I feel like I was born an artist? Absolutely. So my perception of this has changed over the years as I've become a mentor and a coach because I do believe we are all born creative. And so when I meet people that say, I'm just not creative, I didn't get that gene, I just wonder how much of that is true. And I feel like some of us were encouraged. Environmental definitely plays a role in our upbringing, right?
Mhm.
So I feel as though we were all created to be creative, but we get these labels as soon as we start school or as soon as we start in play dates, even in our own sibling dynamic.
Mhm.
Oh,
Agreed.
he's the funny one.
Mhm.
Oh, he's the smart one. Oh, he's so good at math. And I think when the labels start getting formed,
Mhm.
no one ever said, oh, she's so creative. Oh, she's such a good artist. I think if I had heard that, then it could have been something that drove me to, oh, I'm an artist. Someone said I was, and they're an adult, so they know what's best. So I feel like, yes, I've always been creative. I could start thinking about my earliest times of watching my mom put on her makeup, and I was fascinated how she painted her face, right?
Mhm.
So I could be 2 and 3 years old and pulling off her lipstick. And I think a lot of girls were that way. But the way my mother transformed her face was, I stuck around for the whole thing every day. Like it wasn't something that I lost interest in. So I watched her sew. I watched her make curtains. I watched her make things. And as soon as I could, I asked her to teach me those things. I remember a friend of mine teaching me how to crochet. So if it interested me enough, I would stick around. My best friend's mom painted portraits, and my best friend would want to go swimming, and I was 7 or 8, and I would walk into the house, and if I looked in the dining room and she was painting, her name was JJ, Joanna June Bacon. I love that woman to death. I'm 7 years old, and I'm like, oh, I've never seen anybody paint on an easel and a canvas. It was magical. I didn't know this was a thing. We didn't have paints or crowns or things like that in our house. So I would sit there, my friend would get so mad. She's like, it's just my mom painting. And I'm like, you don't understand. She just painted a wolf or a dog, or I was fascinated. So, um, all of that to say, I did not start practicing being an artist until I was in my 30s. I we flipped homes, and we, painted the woodwork, and we painted the walls, and we did the gardens, and we would make a profit, and that setting ourselves up for the next house, the next step up. And there's an art to that, don't you think?
It
There's
is.
a
Oh my gosh.
true art to home improvement. So my mom instilled that DIY, do it yourself, do this, fix this, paint this. She instilled that, and I learned from her example early on. I built doll houses. I took out magazine articles and cut little pictures, and then I framed them with toothpicks. And I would spend my very last dollar that I was given for allowance on a tiny piece of furniture so I could build a house from a dollhouse. And I was doing that when I was 12, 13, 14, and I started painting the shingles. And um, so I know that I was creative. I just, in our perception of what an artist is, that would have been someone that was successful and selling their artwork for thousands of dollars who was in a gallery. That was what my perception of an artist was. So I definitely didn't label myself that until much later when I started working on furniture and realizing My joy came from painting furniture and turning functional art into something that people loved. And the entrepreneurial spirit came. Um, that kind of developed. That wasn't something that I was doing as a young girl. No, I would have been the least likely person to think I would ever work for myself or have that kind of confidence. I really struggled with self-confidence to the fact of I it was brutally shy and brutally very insecure. Everybody could do it but me. So I had to get over those hurdles first, Sharri, before I could believe in myself enough to put myself out there. Because when you're an entrepreneur, you have to promote yourself.
Yeah,
And you
yes.
know how we our generation and um, we were still taught that it wasn't ladylike to talk about yourself or to boost or to promote yourself. Or that's
Mhm,
the way I was taught in the South.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
so
Well, even
that
in the
came much
North,
later.
we might not have called it ladylike, but we would call it, overly assertive or bragging or of that sort. That, you just, yes, you didn't talk about what you were good at. You addressed your weaknesses more often,
Yeah,
much more often. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So talk about though the furniture. So here you're flipping houses, you're painting, you're working with paints. When did the furniture painting furniture, and you don't just paint furniture. It's not like you take a piece, take it from the wood to white or gray or whatever. There, it's beautiful and it's detailed. So what happened?
Thank you.
When did this come to you?
Thank you. I was sitting in the floor of my friend's living room, and she was trying to figure out a way to make income while she had a young baby. And my kids were in preschool at the time. And she said the word Etsy. And I'm like, what is that? What is this? Because I was working part-time in retail. That's what I had done as an adult. Went to work retail in retail management for stores. So I could be around clothes and fashion, and I would do the windows and do the walls and, style and move furniture, much to all of my employers' annoyance. Dionne had always changed. Like, why is this here? Well, Dionne was here today. She worked today. So I thought it would look better. Um, but I always enjoyed that kind of thing. So she said the word Etsy, and I went like, what is this? So I get online, and it says all vintage items or things that are handmade. And I thought, I can make stuff. She's making stuff. So I went home immediately and I set up an Etsy store, and I came up with the name, the Turquoise Iris. Turquoise is one of those colors that gives me life. I can't explain it. A lot of people love purple. A lot of people love pink. I'm a turquoise girl.
Wow.
So Iris is my mother's middle name and my grandmother's middle name. They are two women I find to be very inspiring. And I figured if I had a daily reminder that I could do this business, I could make a life for myself by making things. So the Turquoise Iris developed. Now, in those early days of Etsy,
Yes.
I was just buying things, like going to thrift stores, buying silver platters, seeing what was on there and seeing what was selling. And it was still so new in 2010. Okay, this was 2010. So 13 years ago, I was just seeing what was selling on Etsy, going to my thrift store while I had like a 2.5 hour window, and just loading up my cart, learning how to photograph, and just learning as I went. There was no one was helping you. There were no membership groups. There was no, way you could find out how to do this. So
Excuse me.
I came across a piece of furniture at a garage sale, and mid-century modern was kind of big. This was a Danish style, and Lord forgive me, everybody, right now, I spray painted a mid-century piece of beautiful furniture. I spray painted it gray gloss.
Wow.
Please forgive me. I sold it though. Okay. So my boys were young, and, we had built this huge farmhouse, out in the middle of nowhere. It felt like the middle of nowhere when I lived there, but it was only a few minutes, like 12 minutes from the boys' school. But we built our dream house when we were 32 and 33. Seems a little early. It was a little early. It was very overwhelming to keep up with 5 acres. But I had this impending like mortgage. Um, and I just realized that if I started flipping things and making things, I had a good eye. I had a good eye for color. So when I spray painted that piece of furniture, it sold on Etsy. And then I had a real problem, Sharri. How am I going to sell? How am I going to ship this?
Exactly.
Yeah,
What
because it
was
sold
it?
us.
So what was it
It,
again? Was it
it
a
was it was a big piece. It was like a buffet with a top piece that opened up, had a mirror inside, sold it for $500. And before that, you know how many tablecloths and pillow cushions I had to sew to make $500?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So in my mind, I went cha-ching.
yeah.
Okay, hold on. So I was determined to figure out how am I going to learn how to ship this to New Orleans when I'm in Oklahoma City?
Mhm.
Um, am I going to drive it there?
Mhm.
Possibly, but that's not really sustainable either. So I worked with different companies. I started finding furniture, and I was still doing the vintage items and the vintage, pottery, and I was still finding things and doing pretty well that way. But the furniture, I started selling those on Craigslist. That was a lot easier. Craigslist
Oh.
marketplace wasn't a thing yet. So I was having strangers come out to the country to my door from Craigslist and buy my pieces of furniture, and I would help them load up and just I would tell my husband, I'd call him and say, there's a stranger pulling up. Just want you to know. He said, we're getting a Doberman. I said,
That's
done. Get her. We
yeah.
got a Doberman. Um, and of course, the boys would be there too. But we started working through that process of what that would look like. And I went through different shipping companies. What
Mm.
was cheapest was to load my furniture, package my furniture myself, and load it onto a Greyhound bus at the
Oh my
shipping
God.
station. I did that for
Oh,
3 years.
oh, wow.
So
So
I would,
yeah, so talk about the furniture though, because you spray painted that first one all one color, correct? And when did you start to experiment and say, I can add bling, I hate to use that word, but I can add beauty to it besides changing the color of it. Yeah, how
yeah,
did that go?
yeah. Well, I get bored easily, as you can imagine, as an artist. I took one piece, and I remember the piece, and I put turquoise on it. And Sharri, I put navy over it and then sanded it back. And I saw all that turquoise coming through, and it was as if my mind was blown. Two colors. And then I had distressed it. And then it was like, but it was 2 shades of blue. I didn't do 2 shades of gray. That was just too boring. I learned really early on I'm not a white and gray kind of girl. I didn't enjoy the farmhouse style. But I liked mixing.
Mm.
So Miss Mustard Seed, Miss Marion Parsons, saw that piece that I did, and she featured it on her blog. And that just set me into, oh yeah, I like this.
Oh my. Oh,
Yeah. So
connection.
yeah,
Yeah.
connections and just the validation that I was onto something that she saw as attractive. I looked up to her, still do. Um, And I started exploring with buying posters that had peacocks, and I would apply the peacocks. There was no transfers or IOD or Prima or anything like that. So I was putting posters on the front of furniture and then sanding them back and trying to, I did not believe that I could hand paint anything. I wasn't doing that yet, but I was quickly looking for ways to outdo what I had just done every single time. Couldn't repeat that process. So I was getting encouraged online. And I thought I used 4 colors, 5 colors, 6 colors, and they were selling. They were selling all over the country. And I was finding ways to ship furniture on a bus. And although it was a headache for me, if you really want something, you will find a way. And I know that creative people have a way of doing that. And I found a way. So my Etsy store has taken off. I start having people ask me how about shipping and all of that kind of stuff. And I start teaching people. I start my membership groups. But for the design of my furniture, I realized very quickly that I enjoyed turning the furniture into a canvas, but I still did not consider myself an artist
100. Yes.
because an artist was labeled on canvas like the piece back here behind me.
Mhm.
Um, but I got bored one afternoon And I had two pieces of furniture in the garage, Sharri, and it was hot, but I had still like an hour before it was time to go get the boys from elementary school. So what am I going to do? I still have paint out, my brushes are wet. So I grabbed some old shelves that were in an old china hutch and pulled them off the wall and just started painting on those as my canvas and started playing. And my mom came by the next day and she looks at one of those and she goes, I like these colors. I really like what you're doing here. It's kind of an abstract piece of art. And I went, are you messing with me? Are you just throwing out stuff to make me feel good? Because
Right.
I don't need that. I need to know, is this legit? And she said, no, I really like what you're doing here. It looks as if it's a sunset over the ocean.
Mhm.
And that was just a little bit of spark of what I needed um, to start building in experimentation on canvas, which would in turn reflect onto my furniture art.
Right.
So I played around with painting flowers on furniture and would just hold my breath to
Mhm.
post it and think this is either going to be it or this is going to be really good. And I literally relied on social media for their response.
Tell you.
And right, I just relied on that. And then when it would sell, sometimes it didn't. Sometimes I went too far and had to repaint it. But you have to experiment. You
Yes.
have to do things you don't like in order to know what you do.
Yeah, yeah. And how many well-known artists are there multiple paintings on a canvas? Now that we have the technology to learn that. So what? You try it, you paint something else over it. I love that. But you brought up something that I think is really interesting, that somewhere along the way you started to teach others. You called it membership group. So where did that come from, and who were those people? Because teaching others requires, as I know it, a bit of confidence in your own abilities, because now you believe you have something that you want to share with others. So where did that come in?
Thank you for asking that. It's such a good question. It goes back again to social media.
Mm,
So, Sharri, when Facebook, I was already painting in my garage. So I would have people DM me on Etsy asking, or DM me on Pinterest asking me, how do you do this? How did you get this look? What are you doing? And constantly getting questions so much that it was interrupting my 5.5 hour window that I had to work between, here, and because as soon as I picked up boys, it's go to practice, they're baseball boys. So I remember posting on social media and saying, all right, you guys, I'm being asked to teach, but I am scared to death to show you what I'm doing, because I'm scared that my entire business is going to go flat if I show everybody else what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So I don't really see how this benefits me. But I had a business coach, and she said, if you want to grow your business, the fastest way you can do that is by doing a Facebook Live. And Facebook had just started that. But let's not forget, I'm the shyest girl in the room.
right, that's what
I
you
don't do I don't do public speaking. I am terrified. Um, but I also had bills to pay. And I had these boys, and I had this dream of helping my husband generate more income for our family so we could take a family vacation. So I took that leap of faith and I pushed play on social media, and they showed up. They didn't just show up. Facebook Live was new, and I did have some naysayers. I had some really ugly people come on and say, why are you doing that? That is hideous. Are you sitting on the floor of your garage? That's so unprofessional. But I didn't let them stop me,
love that.
because there were more people saying, wow, I've been waiting for this. Wow. This is amazing. There were more people that I felt like they needed it, and that were asking me. I had gone to college originally to be a teacher. And so I quit early on because I realized I still didn't have the confidence to stand up in front of a classroom, even if it were children, and be responsible for their education. But this, painting with friends through a screen, I
You
could
could,
do.
yeah, yeah.
I could do. So my community started because I took that leap of faith and went live on social media, and I would have the same people showing up for me every time I went live. And I got to know them, and I realized that this community could be so much more. and that I did have something to offer. And every single time I went live through the screen, my confidence started growing. And
Wow.
I felt it within me. I felt that scared. I'm so uncomfortable. I can't, I'm just
Mhm.
terrified. I said something dumb. Oh, I don't even like this piece of furniture. I can't believe I just sprayed furniture with water. And nobody unsubscribed. Nobody stopped following me because what is this crazy person doing? Well, she's an artist. She's an artist. So I'm immediately watching the way that the colors are dripping and blending,
Mhm.
and it's giving me so much joy. So coming back, I started to get on a weekly cycle, and the same people would say, I set my alarm for this. I couldn't wait. And the
Pretty,
power, it's
yeah.
crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. And I'm so grateful for social media, because I have had the most beautiful experience getting to know strangers over the internet, meeting them in person later, and building relationships. F-
Mhm.
my assistant was watching me online, and she had explained I call her my Michelle. She's a dear friend, and helps me with everything in my business now. But she was one that just popped on and started watching
Right.
and connected with what I was doing. And she said, I went through a really hard time after this, and I would look forward to you coming on and painting and doing things I'd never seen before. And it just gave me joy. Sharri, then you feel a responsibility.
You
You
do.
feel it, you do. You think, well, this isn't about me. It's not about me. So
Yeah.
you get over your fear really quickly when you can really commit to it not being about you. How
Mm.
can I help you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me show you this. And maybe you'll be inspired to get out of bed. And it seems very dramatic, but those stories just kept spilling into my email and my inbox.
Mm.
And I realized I could probably start a membership group and funnel all of those questions to one safe place where we could all learn together. At
Okay.
that time, I had tried 3 different shipping companies, done the Greyhound bus, and at this point, I had found a shipper that lived locally, and 7 years later, I'm still texting him back and forth, and he's still coming by picking up stuff, which I literally just texted him before I came on this podcast
Well,
because I
yeah.
have two pieces, one that going to Florida and one going to Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay. Okay. But you bring up something, a couple, actually several points here that I really want to hit upon. And number one, the comment that you made, when you start, you're terrified. You're not sure you can do it, and really it's all about you and your own feelings of going live, but that over time, and that's true even whether someone wants to start a podcast that's totally unrelated to art, as an example, or you're going to do a live, or you're going to do an Instagram live, or you're going to, I don't know, create videos or something. It starts out as terrifying because it's something new. It's truly so. I appreciate you saying that, sharing that, because I think that's something that everyone can embrace, because we often hone in on people who are already successful and we think
Mm,
they've always been that way. We don't know. They were terrified when they started too. So, which is really, really important. But also, then you talked about how it's not about you. And to some extent, would you say that's what being an entrepreneur is about?
yeah, absolutely. I believe that if you're so focused on yourself, you have a hobby. But once you have a business, you have to be focused on your clientele. Who are your customer? Who is this person? Where's your ideal client? Where are they shopping? What are they looking for? And how can you serve them? It's all about serving if you want to be an entrepreneur. And Sharri, the first time I pushed that live button, nothing came out of my mouth. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. And it's literally it was it was this, I mean, and I share this very openly, and even the first few years of doing in-person workshops, people watching me paint in person, I would have to just tell them, and I found that's the way to connect even deeper with someone, is to say, I want you all to know that I'm terrified right now.
Be honest.
I can't catch my breath. my armpits, like it's all just a mess right now because I want to run out and cry. But I also know that you came and you want to learn from me, and I'm here to teach you. So I would say that when you nurture a community, even if it's two people, you
Mhm.
have transforming from being a hobbyist to an entrepreneur. Then you have a business. Yes. Focusing on, and you know, I used to teach people, put a picture when you're getting ready to do the podcast, put a picture of of maybe it's your sister, the person that you're closest to, the person that calms you. Not, you know, not your crazy maker, but the
Right.
person that keeps you calm. Sometimes it would be my 5-year-old son, his little picture. I could put it next to the camera. And if I saw his face, I would be reminded, talk to him as if, talk slow,
Yeah,
make sure he understands. And that would really help me remember why you're doing this.
sure.
Because he broke his bat at practice yesterday and he needs a new wooden bat before his game on Saturday. There's just little things that, whatever your motivator is.
Mhm.
So I could remove the emphasis off. I put on 5 pounds. I don't like the way my hair looks. I don't have on makeup. This is probably not the best ideal shirt. And that's what holds so many of us back. And it's real. It's a real
Mhm.
thing. It's anxiety provoking to do all of these things. We don't, at the time, we weren't taking classes how to do a Facebook Live, how to do a podcast, how to start a business. We had business classes, but this girl had never signed up for it.
No, no. Well, and I'm a business major, and obviously it was long before social media. And I don't think they even teach it, honestly, I don't think they teach it today. Because that generation that's in school, they've been doing it since they were little kids. They
Exactly.
understand the whole thing. But go back to that concept of hobby to a business, because tell me, you work with a lot of artists, you work with a lot of creative souls. Is that a huge kind of going through a whole nother gateway or doorway to say to yourself, my hobby can become a true business?
Absolutely. It is. And my age group that I work with is usually between 45 to 75 and
Oh,
mostly women.
okay.
And a lot of them are at that point where they've been creative their whole life, but they've reached that stage in their life where they're ready to get back to their creativity. And the idea that they could actually make a little income, maybe they're retired or they're planning retirement. And
Mhm.
so the question they come to me with is, Dionne, how do I go from being a hobbyist to an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
And it is a transformation. And for some, they pick it up really quickly because they learn really quickly. And others will say, I'll never get this. I'll never learn the technology. I'll never learn online. I'll never be able to build a website. And so we first have to work on our mindset. That's
Mhm.
really our biggest obstacle, right, Sharri? Our
It is.
mindset, because
Yeah.
I have 75-year-olds that are learning to do brand new things, learning how to use cameras, and because they want to. And so opening themselves up to, yes, you really can do anything. You really can learn. Depends on um, how much of your focus you want to give it. So
Mhm.
as we shift from the hobbyist to the entrepreneur, what I teach is that you have to start speaking as if you're already in that way.
Yeah.
What message do you want to deliver to your audience?
Okay.
If you're going to use social media, which I feel like is really important,
Mhm. It built your
how do
business.
you want them to
Yeah.
yes, how do you want them to see you? What message do you want them to? So if you start seeing yourself as a professional, and this is a professional business, are
Mhm.
you telling people that, including your family, your friends? Are you are you letting them know what you're working on? And that is so hard and so vulnerable, because I will talk to women and they have a plan, they have a schedule, they're going to build their business, but they didn't tell anybody.
Right.
So when their friends call and they want to do lunch, or their husbands, it's 3 o'clock, where are you? But you were in the middle of painting and you were building your website. You didn't tell anybody because, one, it holds you accountable. That makes it hard.
Yes.
But two, you just haven't formed a boundary yet. And you
Mhm.
can't really blame your family and friends. They don't understand that you've been building this. And then a lot of us will get frustrated think, is it even worth it? Maybe I should stay a hobbyist. My family just doesn't understand. And I realized, but did you tell them what you're doing? And did you tell them that you've given yourself a business name? And they'll say, well, no, I was just worried they would laugh at me.
Yeah,
And it's not because
we've
people are
all been there.
mean. It's not because they're, yeah, it's not because their family is being mean to them. Their children just don't understand. They see them as mom. Mom's always been there. Or mom, they know mom's work schedule. Well, now mom has put herself on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday creating schedule from 1 to 5 that she didn't tell anybody. So when they call at 3 and they want to come by, or they want you to pick up their child or some, and you get frustrated and you think, oh, how do I manage all this?
Yeah.
You forgot one important key,
Mm, mm,
and that's saying, this is important to me. This is a goal of mine, and
mhm.
I'm going to do this. I have a mentor. I've built a website. I'm working on this, but they're so worried about being laughed at. We all are. I know.
Every
I am worried about being laughed at times too. Like, the main thing is that we just don't get stuck there, and that we at some point have to decide, who's going to determine my fate?
me.
Me?
Yeah, exactly.
Who are we
So
going to give control to?
is that something you work on in the membership program? And I know maybe share with people all kind of, you have several different programs, don't you? Is it, yes, talk a little bit about that
Yeah.
and what the options are for people.
Oh, sure. Yes. Well, we started 5.5 years ago with just your basic. I say basic, it's never been basic. And I'm one of those people that have never just had it. It's never been just a furniture group. I'm heart centered. I start with love, end with love. And in the middle, there's education and a little bit of accountability that I hold you to. But it's a membership, like a monthly fee. And I first started thinking I was going to show people how to do furniture. And I quickly found out that mindset
Mm-hmm.
is so valuable and so important. It's also something that I love to coach on and to talk about. So we do weekly heart talks. We do a book club. Um, I do new tutorials on Canvas, do tutorials on furniture. I do a Talk to Me Tuesday. I bring in guests who talk on the Enneagram and mindset, social media, Pinterest. We just, all of the elements that it takes to build a creative business. And I bring in other people because sometimes a different perspective is very valuable. But what I've also found is the people that come into the group are willing to share what they know too. So we all learn from each other. It's a beautiful thing when you lift other people and learn from each other. So I have that group, and about 3 years into it, I had these other people asking me to do more. Like, I need I need a one-on-one coaching call with you, Dionne. What is that going to look like? When am I going to fit that into my time? So at that point, I hired um, hired Cami, and Cami's still working for me. She's the editor of the magazine, and she helped me.
Magazine is Turquoise Iris.
The
Every
Turquoise Iris Journal is what we're doing. Yes, we're 2.5 years into that. And she helped me build out the structure, and I was able to expand my team. So at this point, I have 3 other people helping me. When I started this, it's called Empowered by Design. I took the first 20 people from my creative connection that signed up for it. They all get a 1 hour coaching call with me every month. And we dove into things for a whole month. We focused on mindset, because we have to start there, because when we're struggling, when our creativity is smothered when we have things going on in our mindset. So we start there, and then we work through branding. We work through business and marketing. We go to staging and photography. We go to actual painting. And then we finish with a whole month of modules on social media.
Wow. So that is a 6 month commitment. What is the
Mhm.
six?
That's a 6 month commitment. Yes. And I've been doing that now for 3.5 years.
Wow.
And I just take 20 at a time. I've had to actually lower that number because of my other groups that I've started since then. I even have a finger painting group, Sharri, and I found that through my process online. I started finger painting as just a funny thing to do one night on a Friday Night Live. Friday night at 8:30. I've been going live for 5 years on Friday nights at 8:30. And I've had guests on, and I'm getting a little bit more flexible with my schedule because I need to. So some days I don't show up. I say, sorry, guys, we're going to go to dinner instead. But I was so set on those dates and those times when I said I would be there, I would show up. And I started finger painting,
That's
and
wild.
my my finger paintings were selling faster than anything else I was doing. My finger paintings were selling. And so I started a membership group for that, where all we do every week is we just finger paint, and we try new things. We try new mediums. Sometimes I'm outside under the trees. It's literally just the process of painting rather than the end product. So it's more about using our senses. How do we feel? What are we hearing? And working through that as well, because I believe they hold me accountable for becoming a better artist as long as I'm mindfully practicing my art every single week the way that I need to be to become better, and just keep practicing. It's like a yoga practice. It's a you practice throughout your entire life. It's a lifestyle.
Right. So I'm hearing all these groups, we're going to get to the magazine or the journal also, but all these groups and the lives still that you do, I'm assuming that are separate from all of the different classes and memberships, and you're
Mhm.
still painting furniture. You've just called the shipper to pick up two different pieces or whatever. You're a mom, you're a wife, you're running a household. How do you manage all this? And do you ever say no?
Yes, I do say no to some things. I do say no. It's interesting, and I do get asked that a lot, because I have my hat line, and I have my journal line, and I have my handbag line, and I have my brushes and my palette knives through Paint Pixie. So I have a private label, and all of these products that I also have to promote. I have to sell them. And then I decided one day I was going to paint on wedding dresses, and now I've got this, all of these things going. And what I will tell you is this: my husband is my rock.
Mm.
And because of his support, he does all my shipping for me. He ships paintings, he ships paint, he ships our brushes, he ships the journals and the hats, and anything that I sell, he ships all of that for me. So because of him, well, he and I working together, he has been able to pull back on his business. So he only works when he wants to. We have an electrical business. He's an electrician. He works for himself, by himself, but he's part of the team now with Team Turquoise. So
Mm.
um, that's been a huge help to me. He edits all of my videos. He's kind enough to, hey, honey, can you bring me a ring light really quickly? And if he's home, he'll run in here like he did right before this and brought me a ring light. Um, my team, I have 4 people. I have one in Tulsa, one in Washington, one in Ohio, and one in Florida. And I talk with these ladies every single day, and they all do parts of the Turquoise Iris and the parts of the Turquoise Iris Journal. So there are what's happened if you want to scale up, you have to grow your business. You have to ask for help and let go of control. And 5 years ago, I remember letting go of the person that was going to work on my website. And that was, I just felt like I couldn't do it. I felt like I had to have control over every single item
Mm.
that went into my business. But finding the right people, and I feel really lucky to have found the right people, because I know they're the right people. And I don't have a system for that other than trusting my instinct and
Mhm.
asking questions and spending time getting to know these women. They're everything to me, and they make me feel as if I can do anything.
Wow, that's
And
amazing. That's an amazing
it,
team. But
it
how do you manage that team, Dionne? Because they're all over the place, and this is very similar for every entrepreneur today. How do you manage the team and keep them all kind of in sync with Turquoise Iris?
Well, the actual logistics side of it, we have apps and we have things where we work together on Trello, and we have project management, and we have monthly meetings, and we have quarterly meetings. So we all are goal oriented. We have, I make them take the Enneagram. I need to know who I'm working with here, and they need to understand, because I'm a 3 on the Enneagram, I'm constantly coming up, and if there's an achievement and I'm pushing myself, but I don't expect them to be that way. What I do need to do is we respect each other's boundaries. We respect each other's work hours, and I try not to overload them and their capacity. I try not to. But we communicate daily. We have Marco Polo, we have emails, we have meetings, we
Right.
work on Trello. We have, they're just, they're very amazing. I can't say it enough. Without them, I know that I couldn't do all of the things that I'm able to do, which is to paint and be the best coach that I can.
Mhm.
Um,
Right. Well,
so
and
the
technology,
communication is key.
but technology has, as I'm hearing it, has significantly impacted your business. It really started your business with the word Etsy. And but it has evolved now in terms of managing a team from all over. And you named a number of platforms right there that you use to better communicate with your team. I find that so absolutely so interesting. Is that something you talk about even with the 75-year-olds that want to start a business or want to, figure out how to take that hobby into a business?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just figure it, it's all perception, but I can remember sitting at my computer that was gifted to me, hand me down, and I was in my 30s. And I remember thinking, I hate computers, Sharri. Like, I hate computers.
Yes.
And I remember the frustration and the cry. Like, I would cry. My brother teases me all the time because he'll say, you hated computers and now you live off of them. You built this business. Because I'm always like, if I can, you can. I believe that. I don't, if I can do this, you can do this, because I still feel like I was the least likely person. I don't have a college degree. I despised computers and I was the shyest person in the room. So tell me why you can't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's
That's where I get at. Now, is it necessary to use all of these different systems, and is it necessary to have email marketing? You do have to really want that, and you have to understand that the value in that. It And some people don't want to grow a huge business, Sharri. Some people aren't looking to grow a huge business. They just want a small business that is manageable. And you do have to find out what is best for you, what will work for you. So you see, someone might try, "Oh, I want to do this and I want to do this." And then they try it and think, you know what? That's actually, I don't think that's the direction I want to go. So we give ourselves grace to pivot and roll on to something else. We have to give ourselves grace of, I thought I wanted to have a brick and mortar, but that's not giving me life. That's not something that I'm enjoying. I'm good at it, but I've got away from creating. And so I also talk a lot about the experimentation. That's what business is. And ultimately, as a business owner, if you can solve problems, you can have a business, because that's ultimately what it's about, is solving problems. This is a problem. What do we do? This is a problem. What do I do? And I balance that by I've learned to ask for help. I have thrown perfectionism out the door.
necessary.
I've
Yeah.
had to. I've
Yeah.
had to. I've had to be able to say, this is the best that I can do today.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow I might be better, but I will lead with love and I will show you my example. This might not be my best, but tomorrow I might do better. So let me be me and I will let you be you, and we will together just be the best that we can as we grow.
So talk about that a little bit because, one of the things that rather than just sharing successes, I want you to share a story around a failure, something that was not successful, and share with the listeners, what you learned from it.
Well, I've coached on this before, and I said, don't be a James. And they know the story about James. I don't know this gentleman, but this was one of my big regrets in my business, because a client on Etsy had reached out to me, and I say, don't be a James. It was more, remember the story of James and don't do what Dionne did. Um, Sharri, I got sucked in by, I felt like that, sucked in by a very kind person, a customer. and I agreed to do things I didn't want to do. And it's not that I see that as a failure. I see it as one of my biggest lessons. And it's my responsibility to learn from my lessons, pay attention to those cues, stand up for myself, speak my word, and actually not be bullied, basically, or tricked. And I, every person that works with customers and client, they're going to have someone that gives them a bad feeling, and or just, I never want to have a customer like that again. And this just went through in a 6-month time frame. He monopolized so much of my time that I had 1,500 messages from this James
Oh my.
over 6 months.
Yeah.
He found my address and was sending me flowers. People would say, "Don't you find that creepy?" And I'm like, "Well, no, he's really young." And like, I somehow,
It's
I,
because his mask was sweetness, kindness, goodness.
yes, yes. But he would get so upset with me that then he would flip and just, the messages got very toxic. And I was terrified of this person. Instead of just saying, "I will no longer work with you," and just not answering, which is, I look back now and think that was a weakness of mine. That
Mhm.
was, I didn't want to hurt a stranger's feelings. I didn't want to stand up for myself. It was more important that this one person saw me as a good person, which I thought, but basically he was taking advantage of me and monopolizing so much of my time and my energy. And I found myself in tears. And so you have to learn from your lessons. And I teach from that story, and I go into much, much more detail, warning signs and this flag. And you have to learn from those type of mistakes, because the energy I put into that could have been utilized
Mhm.
somewhere else so much better. And so, like I said, I don't necessarily see that as a mistake, but a learning lesson,
Yeah.
and learning that I can say no.
Yeah.
I can use my voice and say, "You know what? I don't feel good about this relationship any longer." But he had my address. And so, Matt was very aware. My husband was very aware what was going on. Um, but I found myself in a situation I couldn't have dreamed of becoming, and I couldn't figure out how to get out of it. But that worked itself out. It's all done and gone. But there's always going to be situations where, and as an artist, you paint things that you think are going to be beautiful. We see something in our head
Mhm.
and not getting attached to the finished product. So I've developed this habit where I don't seal any of my paintings until it sells. I
Okay.
don't put a sealer on it, because I know that it's very likely I will grab a painting after a year and look at it and go, "I have a new idea for this," and continue the process of what I was doing. So I also don't look at that like a mistake, but an evolving process.
Yeah, yeah, similar, similar. It's interesting. So, give your takeaway though of the James quote unquote experience, because I heard, trust your gut, trust your what your body's telling you, because I heard that you had uncomfortable feelings about it, but you talked yourself out of those uncomfortable feelings because you're a nice person and nice people do this, whatever they say, yes, right? So,
Yes.
was that one of the takeaways? And are there others that I might have missed here?
My biggest takeaway from that was that I, again, had given this person, a stranger, my power.
Right.
He was, I was giving him
It's
my
just,
energy, my resources, and my emotions,
your gifts.
and
Hmm.
all of my gifts. And that is not a required thing to run a business.
Right. Right.
That is not required. You can say no. You can stand up for yourself. You can say, "You and I are not going to work well together. And for my well being, I'm going to protect that." And I never, how many times have you heard someone say, "I just don't like confrontation"?
Hmm.
Yeah. Nobody does. Nobody really thrives on it. I mean, a few people, but very few of us love confrontation. So just experiencing that and saying, this is not going to stop me. This is not going to be get the best of me. I'm going to be better because of it.
Right, right,
I'm going to be more prepared next time.
right.
And that's exactly what I did. I prepped myself for the next time that someone gave me were off-putting. Somebody gave me a feeling that I didn't like, and somebody gave me the opportunity to say, you know what, I don't want to work with you after all. And that happened a year later when I was asked to do solid white. Why me? Pick someone else, because you know I'm a painter. I'm like, why me? Don't do this to me. And I had to tell someone that I knew personally, unfortunately,
I
I
don't do
can't
well.
I can't do this project. It doesn't give me life. And for a business to be sustainable, you have to find the balance between what's going to pay the bills
Mhm.
and what is going to actually fuel your soul. What's going to give you that fire underneath your wings. And so I teach the 2-1 ratio. Do two that you know will sell because it's white or gray or something, but you've got to have that third one coming in to feed your soul, to continue the process of I want to continue to create. Otherwise, burnout gets heavy and hard, and we wake up one day when we have burnout and decide it's just not worth it. So we have to find that balance of creating from our heart.
Yeah, yes.
Eh,
And yeah, I love that. 2-1. That's great because we do have to pay the bills. We do have to get into profitability as soon as possible when we turn that hobby into a business, but we
yes,
also have to continue to love what it is that we're doing. Or otherwise we might as well just go work at, I don't know, Williams Sonoma or something, where you just go through the motions. I'm assuming one is not a cook when I say that. I'd actually love Williams Sonoma. But anyways, switch gears because we're running out of time here. But I want you to share the Turquoise Iris Journal, because that's something we haven't talked about today. And I have a
thank you.
copy. You sent me a copy, and I love it. So share.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much. So about 2.5 years ago, it was during the pandemic 2020. And my copywriter, she said, Dionne, I'm still adamant about you. I think you'd do a really good magazine. And we could start with digital. You do a really good magazine, because she was looking at all of the things that she felt like I did well, staging and photography and just fashion and everything it encompasses everything. And she could do the writing. And I know, we have a huge community of creative people that also love doing what I love doing. So why not launch a digital magazine in the middle of the pandemic? Because people were consuming more digital things during that time than getting out. So we did. We kicked it off. We got this digital magazine going. And very quickly, I found that same demographic. I want it in my hands. I want to be able to touch it, and I want to be able to turn the pages. And I love the original magazines. And I'm like, me too, me too. I love magazines. I'm a hoarder of magazines. Um, I am. They've moved with me from every house. So we started looking at that, like, what does that going to look like? Like, okay, what would that look like? So I made a call to my web designer, and they built me a whole new website for the Turquoise Iris Journal, just in case it got bigger. We didn't want to, tie up my website. And expanded my team a little bit. We started looking at building in some timelines. What would this look like? My editor, I said, do you know how to do this? She says, no, but I'll figure it out. And I said, well, you're brilliant. So I have no doubt in my mind that you will figure this out. So she had faith in me. I had faith in her. We've got our website developed. My accounts manager. We now have social media expert that's working on building the social media. What I found, this is another platform for me to allow the creatives from the community that I've been nurturing. They're helping me. I'm helping them. We're loving on each other and learning from each other. This is another platform for me to feature them.
Yeah.
Again, it's not about me. It has my name on it because it's affiliated with my brand, but it's all about the curators of timeless creativity. So I believe what connects us all, whether you're 22 or 102, is creativity.
Mhm.
Because the skill and the craft and the art is timeless. It's not trendy. And I believe it's important for the 22-year-olds to teach the 102-year-olds and vice versa. So the creativity and the craft continues on past our generations. So I just wanted to give that a presence, give that a thing, and give it a voice. And the podcast just came kind of as a sister, like, hey, I loved your article. Let's talk about it now on Paint Talks podcast.
Okay.
So another platform
Yeah.
to
That would
support
be,
this community and to give the creative industry just one more platform for us to support each other and to bring it into presence. So the magazine is quarterly, goes out January, April, July, and October. And we've kind of rebranded into more of a volume style rather than calling it a magazine. I want it timeless, meaning I want it to be like an educational journal. So if you say, oh, I want the copy from 2023 winter edition on adventure, it's still available. You can pull that and read stories about adventure from the creatives that we featured inside of it. So I'm just thrilled to be doing it, Sherry. It's
yeah,
been so much fun.
that's and different. So does is part of this that you're because you talked about how you can get bored easily, and
Mhm.
so as part of it, all these multiple projects, media platforms, membership group, coaching, painting furniture, all of this, does is that just what gives you energy, jazzes you? Yeah,
Mhm.
she's not.
Yes, absolutely. I am always thinking, what can I do next?
Wow. Yeah.
I can't, I say I can't turn off my mind, but I sleep like a baby, I promise. I'm one of those hard sleepers and I get 8 hours. So I do sleep like a baby. But I am enjoying that state of being uncomfortable, learning something new and doing it over and over until I get comfortable with it. And once I get comfortable with it, my brain is the way I'm wired. What's next? What can I do next? It's not because I'm not satisfied with what it is and how it is. I love learning.
Yeah.
I love saying, well, I haven't done that before. It's kind of like with Bloom TV. I haven't done this before. Let's see what we can do. Let's see what this looks like. I love learning, Sherry, and I love the fact that every time I learn, it connects me to a new group of people that are so interesting and I can learn from them.
Yeah. So what's ahead? Because you mentioned Bloom, but I know you have something else in the works. Just share. Let's close with all of those really cool projects that Dionne is working on
Thank you.
right now.
Thank you so much. Well, Bloom TV has been out for a year and a half, and I have some videos on there, and that is a niched network centered around the floral, everything flowers. And because my subject matter is 90% florals, they asked me to be an expert on there. And so I've been working on that for the last year, and that's been wonderful. And my husband has been editing the videos, and we've learned so much. I've tried new things, and that in turn, I don't know when this is going to publish. Um, I was just,
Probably about a month from now would be
all
my
right.
guess. So where does that put you? Yes.
That puts me able to talk about the next adventure, which is Made TV. And we'll be learning a lot more about Made TV Network between now and then. But so much fun going on. That's going to be a network centered around making things and the makers, the stories behind the makers. And am also going to be a part of that, one of the founding members who will be creating content and again, serving our community in a way that I hope is inspiring and motivating. I have 2 retreats this year. I have one next week, and I have one in September in Connecticut. And Sherry, my favorite thing is to get in person with these creative people and just watch the energy level raise and the camaraderie and the communities. It's as if the walls drop when these ladies walk through the door. And I say ladies, it's not only open to ladies. This is just how it usually happens. Um, the walls fall down and the confidence builds.
Mm.
And it's as if the insecurity crumbles while the confidence builds. And I watch these women walk out of these retreats with their head back, their shoulders tall. And it's as if I have this community and I can do hard things. And my main message that I try to deliver, if I can, you can. And
And you
I
have. You're a role
thank you.
model, really.
Thank you so much.
Anyone
That I
feels like they can't do it, you
I
know?
appreciate that. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for saying that.
fantastic. Anything in closing? Is there anything I've missed that you would like to share in this moment?
Well, I can't think of anything that would be centered around what I do, Sharri. I really love what you are doing here with your platform as well. And I appreciate that, respect that. And with the Extraordinary Women podcast and magazine, and you're a servant. And
We
that
all,
ins that inspires me. It
yeah.
inspires me by what you're doing. So I just really want to thank you for having this opportunity. I feel like it's a gift when you are asked to tell your story, and as uncomfortable as it can be to talk about ourselves and our history, and oh, no, it's okay. It's important because our story can inspire. I never know who's going to be listening. And so you're giving this platform, and there might be one person at home who needed to hear this story today.
Mhm.
And that is everything. That's what this is all about. So thank you, Sharri.
Well, thank you, Dionne, because I think that is so true. And when we think back to our own lives and the pivotal moments in our lives, it was most likely somebody else's story that motivated us or inspired us. And now we're creating those stories or sharing those stories. So I love that you said, don't stop sharing your own story, because not only does it give inspiration to other people, but it also gives you confidence. You recognize how far you have come. Also, the girl that said, I don't know if I can do Facebook Live. I'm sweating, I'm dripping here. Can I do Facebook Live? Is now doing retreats, is now on television, the both two different platforms. I mean, that's to me, that's inspiring. That's pretty incredible. So
Thank
thank you.
you.
Thank you for sharing
Thank
with
you.
us today, Dionne. I love it.
It's
Okay.
my pleasure.
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
will see you soon.
All right. Great. Thanks.